this topic, I'm going to talk about card sorting as an information design technique. Think of it this way. Imagine your website is being used by hundreds, thousands, if not millions of users every day. How do you solve the dilemma of grouping the information that makes the most sense to all of them? Well, card sorting can help you with that. Let's imagine you have a website that has these 6 pieces of information. Now, you will probably recognize the words on this. And if I ask you to group them together, you might go, well, that's pretty easy. Hewlett-Packard and IBM are computer manufacturers. So I'll group those together. You might go, well, orange and purple, they're colors. So I'll group them together. That's easy. And also, apple is a fruit. I'll keep that by itself. And green, well, that's another color. So I'll move that to here. However, what if somebody else came along and said, well, actually, orange is a fruit. I'm going to group orange and apple together. Well, what about a third person who comes along and says, hang on a second, Apple, they're a computer manufacturer. I'm actually going to group them with these guys. As you can see, it can be quite challenging to group the information to make sense to the user. So card sorting, which I'll talk about in a sec, is an effective way of making sure you understand how the users group the information that's going to make sense to them. Now let's take that previous example to a larger scale. Imagine you've got more than 6 pieces of information on your website. How are you going to go about doing this exercise? Well, card sorting is going to allow you to do that. Now let's take this to a bigger scale. Imagine you've got a website that's got 10,000 pieces of content. So the whole idea behind card sorting is that you're going to look for a subset, about 100 to 150 pieces of content that represent both the breadth and depth of information you have on your website. You're then going to recruit users and get them to work in pairs and group the content in a way that makes sense to them. So the whole idea of the card sorting is they're going to sort the cards. Once they've grouped the information together, they might use sticky notes to actually label each grouping. And the label is going to allow you to understand how users think about and label that group of information. The important thing is to also discuss with them and get them to rationalize why they have grouped that information the way they have. And by doing this a number of times, number of pairs of users, you're going to start seeing patterns in terms of how information is grouped together and the types of words that are used. The most important thing about card sorting is to get a good sample size or a good number of participants so you can actually see patterns. Now, as an exercise, it seems quite simple to do, right? However, the most difficult part of card sorting is analyzing the information. As I said before, it's about looking for patterns. The first step to analyzing your card sorting is to actually capturing the data, often in a spreadsheet. Then the idea is to look at patterns, for example, where similar groups of information have been put together by different users and similar labels that are being used for those groupings. Now be mindful, card sorting is not the answer to your information architecture or how you go about grouping the information on your website. It's just one input. End of the day, as the designer, you need to be able to look at these pieces of information, look at the business objectives, look at the user's needs, and try and make sense and massage this information so that you can build an information architecture of your website that makes the most sense for everybody. Let's talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses for card sorting. For one, it's quite cheap and easy to conduct. Secondly, users get it, so users know what they have to do with the exercise. However, as I mentioned before, analysis can be quite difficult. And finally, it's not going to give you all the answers. It's just an input. So in this topic, I've covered card sorting. It's actually quite a fun and easy technique to get an understanding of how your users group information on your website. In the next topic, I'm going to move to interaction design.